This is Gilgamesh. I want to talk about one of my favorite horror movies of all zombie movies is Return of the Living Dead. It was directed by Dan O'Bannon, and essentially we have a John Russo. He co-wrote Night of the Living Dead with George Romero, and they both agreed they could do their own thing each. So he wrote a story called Return of the Living Dead, a novel, which was supposed to be a sequel to Night of the Living Dead. Yeah. So, and Dan O'Bannon, originally Tobe Hooper was going to direct it, but he walked away to do Life Force. Love that movie. So then, Dan O'Bannon had co-written Life Force with Tobe Hooper, and he's also the guy who wrote The Alien, if you didn't know that. So Dan O'Bannon gets his hands on this, and he decides he's going to make this movie. And it turns it on its head, the whole idea of zombies on its head. And what we get is, this is the first time you ever hear about brains. Yeah, brains. It was in this movie, Return of the Living Dead. And we find out in the movie the dead feel pain. Yeah, it sucks being dead. So they eat brains because it makes the pain of rotting away go away. So that's why, and initially it's Dan O'Bannon basically changed some of Russo's his book and everything. And so it takes place at this this small, I think it's supposed to be Kentucky or Louisville, Kentucky, and at a warehouse and a graveyard, a cemetery, with a funeral home. And essentially, you have Clue Gallagher playing Bert Wilson, and you got James Karen. Bert he owns the warehouse. Frank Johnson, played by James Karen, he has worked there for years. And Tom Matthews he's new, and he plays Freddie Hanscom, Freddie in the movie, and he, and his girlfriend is Tina, and essentially she's waiting to meet up she's with her friends, led by Suicide, and his girlfriend Trash, played by Lena Quigley, and she does get naked in the movie, because she talks about death and everything. She goes, the weirdest way to die would be to be eaten alive. You have Scuts, you have Casey, you have Chuck, Spider, played by Manuel A. Nuez Jr. Oh, you've seen him in a lot of things. And Don Kafka, who's the Ernie in this movie, and he is, basically he works in a funeral home right next to a cemetery. Actually, it's connected to the cemetery. And essentially the movie starts in this warehouse where Frank is going to show the new kid, Freddie, around, and Bert basically cracks a joke if it's, to him, then he leaves, heads home, I guess. So they're talking, he talks about the Night of the Living Dead and how, it's based on a true story. And he tells them about they have some of the zombies from this in the warehouse. And he goes, you want to see? And he goes, sure. So he takes them down and shows them it, and they're from the military. They screw up, they end up getting these, sent to them, and he hits the thing, and out comes this gas that basically knocks both of them out and resurrects the dead. And you have the one in the container, who I think comes back as Tarman. Yeah. and you have this other one that basically is yellow. And so they think by movie logic, if you hit it in the head, it will kill it. But the problem is it doesn't. So they dismember the body. And they ask the question, well, it worked in the movies. Good question, right? So movie logic doesn't work here. So they want to, Bert goes, he knows a friend, you know, Ernie, who could probably dispose of the body. And then, of course, yeah, there's a lot of humor in this. You got Frank basically, I could do this. So they get the body, get him over, they cut it up, put it in plastic bags, garbage bags, black ones. And while they're trying to figure out, how to get rid of the body, you know, Tina and her friends, decide to hang out in a cemetery. And they're partying, and this is when, what happens? Oh, that's right. Trash gets, gets naked, takes off her clothes. Well, there you go. And starts dancing, and, from the trailer you get Manuel, you got Spider going, yeah. And basically then Suicide is talking, and she comes up, and he goes, have some respect for yourself. And nobody takes him serious, all this, And then Casey goes to Scud, is that, Freddy? And goes, why? Why would Freddy be going to a mortuary when he works at a warehouse? So dismisses it, and essentially they get to the place, and Ernie's dealing with a corpse, and he convinces them to, tell him it's dead dogs. Oh yeah, and eventually it turns out it's the yellow guy that they cut up, and his arm grabs Ernie, and then they basically burn the body. You think, okay, that's gotta be the end of it. Nope. Cloud goes in, starts raining, pouring down rain, basically mixes with this shit, and basically decides to bring all the dead back. And it has a punk look, and it has a very more rock or heavy, Oh yeah, and essentially the dead come back. In that whole scene where you have Trash talking about getting eaten alive. Well, that plays into this movie, and so essentially, they start getting chased by the dead. They're running the thing, brains, and some of them, they make it to the funeral home. They get in, and then they warn them, that essentially there's 100 of them, I think they say, and they say, oh, God damn it. Bert says, God damn it. They thought they had covered their tracks, and it's like, eventually they revealed that, the two idiots who are, by the way, dying, it's obvious they're dying. This gas is killing them, but, and so they capture one of the dead bitch, the skeleton bitch, and she gets tied down and points out that being dead sucks. It hurts. They feel themselves rotten. They need to eat brains because it alleviates the pain of being dead. So we understand now. They aren't doing this because they're evil. They don't want to suffer. It sucks to be dead. Okay, I get that. And there's a whole thing with the military that is looking for these, they call them Easter eggs. Yeah, the containers with all the zombies in it, that they lost, they're Easter eggs. The Colonel Grover cracks me up. John Terry, he does a great job here. He just plays it straight on, straight-laced military guy that he even tells his wife, Ethel, basically, snaps at her and then goes, oh, I had lamb for lunch, and I think, he had lamb chops for lunch. Yeah, only in the military can you afford to eat lamb all the time. I love lamb. But yeah, they're up there, and, oh, shit, two of them get separated and they go back to the warehouse. Oh, no, before that, they make it, no, oh God, I forgot. They make it to the warehouse. I'm going back a little bit. Well, Freddie and Frank and Bert are out there. they go to Tina goes to the warehouse looking for Freddy, and well, she makes it to the basement, and all of a sudden she hears this movement, and then the curtain opens, and there's a fucking zombie, and it's a no. They nicknamed him Tarman. He says brains, and he's doing this, and it's actually a guy doing this, by the way. Alan, this is the guy right here. He plays Tarman. And he's a puppeteer, and he just moves like really creepy. He's like the most unsettling thing in the whole movie. And he's going, brains. And she falls, breaks a step, she crawls, lands, crawls into the thing, closes it, and basically these things are not stupid. He grabs the chain, wraps it on, and he's starting to crank it so he can open the door, get to her brains. Then the rest of them, they head over to the, they get in the car and everything, and they notice, the dead are, the rain, it's like acid. Leanne Quigley, Trash points that out, it feels like acid rain. They get to the warehouse where they go down and Suicide goes, what the? And the thing goes, brains, and grabs him, the tar man, and bites into Suicide's head. He's starting to devour his brains, and then Spider throws something at it, and it falls down, gets him, and goes, more brains. So they lock it in the basement, and they proceed to head to the warehouse. To the funeral home. They run through the cemetery, and all of a sudden they stop, and they start seeing the dead coming out of the ground. They're like, oh shit. And they get separated, and Casey and Scuds head back to the warehouse where they lock themselves in. And the others, except for Leanne, she gets killed the way she talked about. Trash gets killed, her brain's devoured by it and becomes a zombie. And the others make it, where they reveal that, oh my god, there's 100 of these things. And they're like, fuck. And then eventually they reveal what happened. These two idiots caused a gas leak and then brought the dead back. They burned the body thinking it would end all this, and unfortunately, And so we're caught up, and basically Freddy and Frank are dying. They're turning into zombies because paramedics show up, they check their their temperature is below living. They're not technically supposed to be moving because it's odd. They go, oh my god, they're technically dead, but they're talking, so they're not sure what to think. They go out, they get killed. Yep, they get attacked and killed, and then they hear, send more paramedics. So these things think. And essentially, James Karen Frank burns him, realizes what's happening, goes and burns himself. Kills himself so he doesn't end up hurting anybody. And essentially, paramedics show up, they get killed, and then Ernie says, everybody comes in here, this is death. And then they call, send more cops. Some more cops come, they get their brains devoured, and as they're boarding up, and then, we get to the point where the guy with the mohawk gets this one dead bitch, she's the one that goes, bites his head and basically is trying to eat his brains. He bleeds out and dies. They take her to she's going, bang, bang, bang. They want to kill her, then they find out that dying sucks, and their bodies are rotten, so they eat brains to hold off the pain of dying. So it's like, okay. And so later they decide they got to get out. So much death and everything. And Frank goes, Bert goes out. He goes to check on. He sees the paramedic, the police, whatever. Then this little midget zombie comes at him, and he runs back in. And they realize they got to get out of here and get back to the warehouse. So Spider and Bert get in. They get out while Tina stays behind with Ernie. By this point, Frank has burned himself a lot, so he doesn't. Freddy's completely taken over. He can't see. So they they go up in the attic and lock themselves in as he's trying to get them, talks about breaking his arm off. And they get back to warehouse in the basement. They say, "Oh, what's in the basement? It's fucked." There's a, he says, "Open the door," and then the thing goes, "Brains," knocks his head off, and they call the military number, and that's when they find out, where the eggs are, and says, "Hold on," and basically the whole end of this movie is the military fucks up, thinks that they nuke the area. And essentially, it's going to start the whole process over. Yeah, that's literally, the end of the movie. I love this movie. It's got a great soundtrack. It's one hell of a fucking movie. And here's the actual trailer. Let's bring this up.
In the dark of the night, something strange is going on.
Did you see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
Sure.
Yeah, by the way, in this, Night of the Living Dead actually happened. Point that at again.
Well, say hello.
The dead have risen from the grave,
There's 100 of those things out there.
How many did you say?
100?
and now the question
nobody can
is,
stop the dead.
how
They
do
want
we
your
get them
brains.
back into the ground?
And by the way, they want your brains. Yeah, they want them back in the ground, but nothing can stop them. Shoot them in the head, they keep coming. You can't kill these things. Yeah, they're unstoppable.
Bert, Frank, we have a little problem. 4 left, 10 right.
It's all over everything! Stupid asshole! Watch your tongue, boy, if you like this job! Like this job!
Look at that fucker. That's an actual fucking guy. Look at this guy. That's fucked up. That actually is a guy. Yeah. Look at that. That's Tarman. His fucking skin melted off. Yeah. That's horrifying. Yeah. See, him covered that.
Medical science is back.
It's a puzzle. Because technically, you're
You're
not
dead.
alive.
What?
Why do you eat people?
Not people. Brains.
How do you kill something that's already dead?
Well, how do I know, Fred? I don't know. Let me think.
It's not a bad question, Bert. In that movie, they destroyed the brain to kill him. Is that what they did?
The brain, right? I hit the brain. Oh! Get it off! Get it off! Get it off!
The military is nervous.
How was your day?
Usual crap.
The police confused.
He says everything with such a straight face.
Send more cops.
It worked in the movie! Well, it ain't working now. Brain the movie line?
It's not a bad question, Bert. It's not a bad question, Bert.
Yeah, let's see something. Does this have... It doesn't. It's just... Yeah, it's a
not a
wonderful
bad
movie.
question,
If you get a
Bert.
chance to see it.
The return of the living dead.
Yeah, this is a great movie, by the way. I mean, honestly, it's... Yeah. Let's dump that. So yeah, we'll get to that one. But yeah, this was the cast. And everyone's seen this guy. He was in, I think... Yeah, he's in Jimana Woman, where he's a basketball player. He doesn't do well, so he goes and pretends to be a woman so he can play basketball. Funny movie, really is. Yeah, this is John. Everything he says in this movie, he says with such a straight face that it's, yeah, and it's funny, like crap. And this is the guy who plays Tarman, by the way. Yes, this is Tarman, who says, brains, more brains. Yeah, that's him. Yes. So, yeah, I highly recommend this movie. It's a great zombie film. It makes fun of it actually does a good job of consumerism.